Hey there, Film Buds. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. I'm your host, Paul.
And I'm Lauren.
And it's Christmas weekend, everybody.
It is.
It's the eve of the eve. We're also in the middle of Hanukkah right now, so happy holidays, everybody.
Yes.
It's a fun time of year, and we decided, especially since we've been getting so much stuff, and we've been doing all this for your consideration stuff, we decided that we would do for this week's episode both a movie that is out today and a movie that is out next week. And so for today's episode, we're going to be doing Glass Onion and White Noise.
Woo.
Both of them are from Netflix, but before we get into that, dear, how have you enjoyed what we have seen from the For Your Consideration films? And are you looking forward to Christmas tomorrow?
Sunday.
Sunday, whatever.
All right, so I guess I'll start with no, I've been very much enjoying the movies that we've watched. Of the things that we've gotten a lot of things, and honestly, like, going through all of them, there are probably going to be some movies that don't tickle the fancy as much, but I think that we've really hit a stride of a very interesting variety of artists, and we've gotten to see movies that have truly pushed the boundaries of what a movie means, and I think that's a lot of fun. It's been great to kind of get this, like, bite-sized what came out in 2022 in this, like, fun rapid fire.
Yeah. Is there anything that we've had, with us screener-wise that you're looking forward to still watching?
I'm curious about the Bodies one. The one I think that it's going to be like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of deal.
Bodies.
Yeah. It's going to be like that, but like raw. That's what I'm guessing. But also I could be completely wrong in that, and so it's part of the fun.
If it's anything like an American Raw, or an American Julia Ducournau equivalent, that would be exciting. That would be thrilling.
Yes, Julia Ducournau did like Titane.
Yeah, Raw and Titane.
Okay, yeah. No, for sure. Honestly, because those movies are nuts. So,
and they're so immediately and emotionally demanding.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that in the best possible way. Like, they demand an emotional response in some sort of way very quickly on.
No, yeah. I can't, I guess, really think of, like, another movie off the top of my head that is in this pile of movies, that, I guess, sparks some kind of, like, interest. Let's see. Have we watched all the ones that we got a box for?
Yes.
Okay, well then there we go.
No, and are you looking forward to Christmas?
I mean, of course I'm looking forward to Christmas, as always. I think that I really enjoy Christmas as a holiday. I hate Christmas as a season.
I get that.
Because Christmas as a season is obnoxious. But I like the holiday. I like the holiday a lot. Because also it's just it's a whole day that's based around giving, and I think that that's really just a lovely thought. It's not about the receiving, but I think that people have made it about receiving.
Yeah.
It's always been this selfless gifts that you give to the people that you love. Not expecting anything in return. But obviously, if everybody does that, then you're obviously getting things, and there's the rabbit hole where we've gotten today. With capitalism and whatnot. But I step down from my from my soapbox. I am looking forward to the holiday. I put out some Christmas presents under our tree today. So it felt
too.
Yeah, it felt that much, closer to actually doing the real deal, instead of like having all the decorations, but it just being like something that we've had for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it feels more official. I can't believe that it's honestly like in 2 days. That's the thing that I can't get over right now.
No, yeah, I mean, it's literally just there around the corner. I'm looking forward to Christmas as well. We'll probably end up at the theater that day in some capacity. I've really enjoyed this month and the for your consideration, screeners that we've gotten. Again, much like you, it's a great just access point to things that also were, quick in, quick out theatrically, and so I have really enjoyed that sort of access that has come with it. And I was talking with my manager about it the other day. I was like, the other big benefit is that I now have certain movies that, probably will never get released physically.
Which is such a bummer. But, I mean, to your point, just like the 2 movies that we're reviewing today, they're both on Netflix, but only one of them we actually got is like a hard copy of it.
Some people got it.
Some people got a Glass Onion copy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then they must have been high up in the list.
Box.
Oh. So I guess we won.
Some people got a screener, but they didn't get the box.
Then I think that we won, because you got a hat, you got a shirt, you got so much stuff. Like, that's different.
So, it's a really interesting thing, and I also realized, all of the boxes, are all Netflix things, because Netflix is just hurling money at this process, and so.
Oh yeah, because they want to win.
It's fascinating. I've enjoyed everything that we've watched for the show, and some of the stuff that we've watched outside of the show. The thing that I probably want to watch the most out of what we have remaining is The Fabelmans.
Oh, I totally forgot about that. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, see, we've got so many movies. Honestly, I should have studied up before you asked me that question. I would have really had an answer for you, instead of me going, I can't remember anything.
I thought Bodies, Bodies, Bodies was a good answer.
Well, yeah, it's the one that I've seen the most, especially like advertised as well, because they're, like you said, these things are pushing for them. I don't have no idea.
Tar. Tar is another one that I'm really looking forward to watching.
Oh, yes, the Cate Blanchett movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to getting into some of that, especially in these coming days when I have a little bit more flexibility in my schedule, with time off and that sort of thing. So I'm really looking forward to getting into the weeds on some of that. But I guess with all that said, we should go ahead and jump into what we're talking about today. And, our first thing that we're reviewing is Glass Onion,
yes.
which we did not get a screener for, but we took part in the promotional experience. We'll talk about that later. Of seeing it in theaters like a month ago now, almost. Yeah, because it was at Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And so Glass Onion is a Knives Out mystery. That's the subheading. It's a continuation of the Benoit Blanc mysteries created by Rian Johnson. Glass Onion is, of course, written and directed by Rian Johnson. And it stars Daniel Craig returning as Benoit Blanc, Edward Norton, Kate Hudson, Dave Bautista, Janelle Monáe, Catherine Hahn, Leslie Odom Jr., Jessica Henwick, and Madeline Klein. And the premise is famed Southern detective Benoit Blanc travels to Greece for his latest case.
Oh, they're in Greece.
So, with all of that being said, I guess for just a little bit of background, the first movie of Knives Out was done by, if I'm not mistaken, Sony. I think it's a Columbia Pictures joint or a Sony Pictures, affiliated thing. And regardless of that, they lost the bidding war on the sequels.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever made the first film lost the bidding war on the follow-ups.
And that's why it's on Netflix now.
Correct. And they won huge. They gambled big. Rian Johnson got an enormous payout. Daniel Craig made $100 million for the two films combined.
Wow.
And I recently went back and listened to some of, the commentaries on Knives Out. And he really wanted Knives Out to be this kind of deconstruction of the genre in a very interesting way. The sort of upstairs, downstairs nature of some of these stories. The classic brilliant detective at the center and their quirks. And so he wanted to do this whole thing. And I was really curious going into it about what it was going to be like. And so then, they not only announced a second one, but a second and a third. So, we're also, I guess, now in the middle chapter, before we get too deep into the discussion. And so with all that said, dear, what did you think of Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery?
I enjoyed Glass Onion a lot. I think that this movie is very clever, like the first one. But in a different way. We have a completely different cast of characters this time. Instead of it being, them linked by familial bond, this is a group of friends that have known each other for a very long time, an acquired family of sorts.
Acquired themselves at the same time that they sort of acquired power as well.
Yes, and they've each stemmed off into different directions of what it is to have power.
In different spheres. Yes.
And I think that this movie is very interesting. I love the whole premise of, because each movie is a play on, the center point, architectural element of the films. It's the Glass Onion is literally this glass onion of a house on a hill, pretty much. It's a center point building of this man, Edward Norton's home, that is of this multiplex of different buildings, this commune of sorts that he's created, this courtyard with his wealth.
It's a monument to self.
Yeah. Just like Knives Out was encapsulated by the sculpture of knives, all pointing to a center focal point.
The Glass Onion is where this story resides. The Knives Out sculpture is ever present in the investigative room, if we will, the study of Knives Out. Here, the entire thing is encapsulated inside the Glass Onion. Which also evokes this idea of a strange, isolated, round place, which is also kind of what an island is. This sort of strange, isolated space.
And honestly, that's why I didn't realize that they were in Greece. I just knew that they were on some rich guy's island, and I had yada-yada'd through the details of that.
It could be off the coast of anywhere.
No, exactly. I was like, oh, this person has money, you say. Island and wherever the hell. Continue on.
Tropical island where the rules don't apply. Continue.
Right. Not a part of America. Fantastic.
Go on.
I had no idea, and I didn't really care to know, so just, oh, Greece. Fancy.
It's not really like it leans into any...
No, it is very... I think that they do a really good job, again, in this one, of picturing wealth in this microscopic lens, this really down to the nitty-gritty of different types of wealth, whereas the last one we really focused on this generational wealth, these people who had benefited off of a wealthy benefactor, the father.
Their father.
And that trickle effect of nepotism and how their lives have been affected by just being related to him. Whereas, like, these people's relationship is more fragile than that because they don't have the easiness of being related to somebody with power. When somebody has money, when somebody has power, and you are not a part of their you don't have to like me, but you always have to love me, category of being family. Now you teeter on this line of, is this truly a part of my own viewpoints, or am I just sucking up to the person with power in order to keep my power, and what parts of myself do I have to sell in order to do that? And we get this vast array of characters who are each battling with that inner conflict in different ways. Some of them are more willing to just let go of their own in order to be a part of the wealth of the club, whereas others are truly torn by it. And I really enjoyed the dynamics of this film a lot. Is this a perfect film? No, but it's a good time. I think that I guess because it is a Knives Out movie. It is a sequel. I still have to look at it with its original with it. And I guess I do prefer the original to this one, but this one is different, and this one has different funds that I find charming about it. Different plot points that just couldn't have been a part of Knives Out, that are brought to this, that are still completely and utterly Benoit. I think that Daniel Craig is stealing this entire film. Honestly, iconic moment for me in this film is this man in his southern summer attire.
His old school bathing suit, his 1920s bathing suit.
Literally just, waltzing around in this huge, luxurious pool. In this, it looks like a button-up shirt and some khaki shorts, basically. And, they're all the same pattern, but it's like a linen suit is what he's wearing, pretty much. And it's just hysterical, and I love it with his little ascot. He's perfectly not correct in the picture. Everybody else fits in this very, like, modern, wealth in different categories and what that means. Whereas, and then there's this man who is very hard pulling into this old-fashioned mindset, not only with his clothing choices, but the way he talks to, this very, the southern drawl.
Well, and it also speaks, going back to the character, his reverence for, Grandma Thromby in Knives Out. I
These
suspect
children. Yeah.
that I might be the first one to, wish you condolences for your son's passing. And him just sitting there and just looking at her and going, if you don't mind, I think I might sit here, because I find your company pleasant.
Whereas everybody else is turned off by her oldness.
And he's just sitting there in total comfortable silence with this woman. And I think that, to your point, he does have this incredibly, almost impossible old-fashioned sensibility. No one was really even quite like this back then.
No, yeah, but he's completely and utterly himself as well. I love the Hugh Grant cameo that we get in this, with his apron. Yeah, and it's just fantastic, casual, and then he's gone. You never see him again.
Nope.
You don't see him again. He's not mentioned again. We get some late great cameos as well with Stephen Sondheim and Angela Lansbury, both having a cameo in this film. before their passings.
Because this movie was made literally even though it's coming out now, in
made.
2022, it was shot in peak COVID.
Yeah, and they get around it, but you know that this movie is made in COVID.
You see the behind the scenes photos. I looked at one today, and you've got Daniel Craig sitting there in the Glass Onion at the Edward Norton desk where the bar sign for the Glass Onion is hanging behind him. Mm-hmm. And it's just Daniel and Ryan. And Daniel is sitting there because he's in the camera ready moment, he's about to shoot, just sitting there. But Ryan is sitting there, and he's got a mask on.
Well, yeah, but you can also you can see it in the blocking as well. There's a
distance.
Yeah, there's a few clever tricks that they do, that feel like movie magic, but it's all just perspective shots of somebody is further away than we think they are, but because of the angle that it's shot in, they're closer together.
We're doing this sort of dramatic effect of everyone being staged around the room to where someone says a line in this part of the frame that bounces to this part of the frame that bounces to this part of the frame.
Exactly. And I love our character introduction that we get of them all on the pier. It's fantastic.
He really brilliantly gives you, much like in the Rian Johnson very cleverly does the same trick but different in Glass Onion. In Knives Out, he introduces you to every single one of the family members in these elaborate introduction moments of interrogation. Mm-hmm. Because the murder of the film has already happened.
Yes.
Whereas when we're meeting everyone, there is no murder, no one is a suspect. Benoit is getting these people just in these raw snippet flashbys. Mm-hmm. And so we're getting to watch Benoit suss up these people, and we're sussing them up alongside him.
Yeah, and it's perfectly centered around this moment of of our awareness of COVID and the fact that
who's wearing a mask?
Yes!
Who isn't? What kind of mask? Are they taking it off immediately? Does someone have it under their nose?
It's fascinating, and it's so subtle, and nobody focuses on it. Nobody says anything about it. It's so natural.
It's just everyone's just living in that reality.
Exactly. And I loved it because now that the scare has worn off, I guess.
And we kind of yada over how we get past.
Exactly. It's this wonderful window into these people as characters now based on this new criteria that we all understand. Mm-hmm. I love that. It's a character study, but if we had done something like this
beforehand,
it wouldn't have made any sense.
We'd have been like, okay, these people are wearing masks, and it obviously is meant to imply something about them, but it wouldn't be grounded in something as immediately tangible.
Exactly. We have a group shorthand.
Yes.
On this, and it's great. It's so subtle, and to your point, it is him understanding who these people are in a flashbang kind of setting. It's fantastic.
If
honestly.
I may, I think that
yeah, of course. Sorry, I have taken so much.
No, you're totally fine. If I may, I think that this movie is less, ultimately, at the end of the day, I think that it is probably actually less compelling of mystery, but I think that it is more fun of a romp.
I totally understand.
I think Knives Out is truly a brilliant mystery that subverts all of my expectations, that astounds me perpetually. It's kind of like watching Christopher Nolan's The Prestige the first time. You're watching a magic trick play out in the original Knives Out film. With Glass Onion, I think what you're ultimately getting into is something that is ultimately just as well crafted, just as clever, but more fun then it is groundbreaking. But also, I think to a degree, that's something of the nature of a sequel, especially a sequel to something like Knives Out. I did what I set out to do with Knives Out.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a realistic expectation of me to say I'm going to break every mold again? How can you?
Mm-hmm.
To a certain degree. And I think he does manage to play with new tropes in exciting ways and still surprise me routinely. There are definitely moments of surprise throughout the movie. But I guessed the ending much, much sooner in this movie. However, I don't mind as much because the movie is a fucking blast. It's an absolute romp.
Yeah.
So I don't mind getting to the end and going, well, that's exactly how I expected it to play out, because I had a great time getting here.
Yeah. No, I completely understand. Yeah.
They didn't snooze me to death to drop me at the door of the obvious answer.
Well, I think that to your point, the character study, if you will, has also gotten sloppier,
Deeper.
but it's not, and I guess I don't mean sloppier in the sense of like that these characters aren't deeply woven into this narrative and their motives are real. I guess I mean in the sense that like Knives Out, those were pompous, educated people.
Yes, and this was a clockwork machine start to finish. This is sloppy people being sloppy people.
Exactly. It's messy, but people's lives are messy.
And I think that he's also brought more of the upstairs, downstairs, not even necessarily the upstairs, downstairs aspect. I think that he has brought more of the social awareness to the forefront. It is present in Knives Out. It is there in Knives Out. It is part of the backbone of Knives Out. Here, I think that it is absolutely the crux. The position of people to power.
Well, again, it's
very, very much more directly.
It's the difference in the quality of our rich person. Because we are coming, we saw old money. This is a well-oiled, fully thought-out thing. How do we keep our wealth?
And Harlan Thrombey was the wealthy man who wanted to be good, whereas these are all wealthy people who enjoy their status.
Exactly, and this is more of like the Jersey Shore version of wealth. They have money, they have power, they are stupid.
Yeah, they're all a little bit messy with it. They're all a little bit, and because it's also tied to someone that isn't necessarily blood, it's a different dynamic as well.
Exactly. It's almost, it's not this entitlement that the original had. They were expecting that money, whereas this is a fine line of, will I have to give up my values in order to keep my funds?
Well, and also one of the big differences is our power symbol here isn't dead. Harlan is dead, so it's people fighting over a carcass.
Yeah.
Here, the person in the movie that has the status, that has the wealth, that people are afraid of stepping on the toes of in the midst of this murder mystery.
This literal murder mystery.
Is very much alive with us. And so there's also games of power being played with the living power player.
And I think that...
And that's a different dynamic entirely.
And I think that, how the first one is very much of like, it is definitely Clue. People are color-coded, it's very like precise. You even have the old manner in which we live in. Now we don't get the color-coded, but we do get categories of people. We get this array, this crayon set of new wealth.
And you definitely, through the costuming, it's not color-coded, but everyone's costuming is
specific,
blatant.
It's on the nose. It's loud because they have to not only be entirely this character, but they also have to represent an entire type of person.
Yeah.
So they have to have this array. You know, we've got our black scientist who is definitely, you know, the brother. He wears, you know, the African threads, these traditional.
He's got like the hat.
He's got the very specific, you know, the beard, you know, he's wearing like dashikis when we like first see him. He's very much like this, but that's funny because it's like, you know, when we see the backstory, that's not who he is. You know, he's fallen into this the further in he's gotten closer, I think, to, you know, this original persona, this black identity, the further he's gone into white society.
Well, and maybe that's a way to kind of like reclaim some sense of self. Feeling lost in the midst of this wealth vacuum.
Yeah. And then we've got our politician who's the overworked
buttoned
mom.
up and in khaki.
Yep. You know, all the fun went out the window the moment that she had kids. You know,
and was deep in office.
Exactly.
Because you can't slip up.
Nope, not even a little bit. And then we've got the, you know, the airhead influencer who's just here for a good time and doesn't know a thing and is just doesn't need to, because thank goodness she's got all the right people in the right places. Oh, yeah, completely.
And then we've got her dude bro equivalent.
Yep.
Joe Rogan, Alex Jones.
Who's pushing his supplements and his you know, men-only perspective.
And then we have the two people that were the right and left hand of power, and the ultimate question hanging over them of which one really has power at the end of the day.
And it's all this narrative of, you know, the dynamics that we live in right now, because also, you know, who is our person who has all of the power? It's Ed Norton. It's this white man. It's this white man who is coined as a genius and, you know, can do no wrong and has all of this wealth, so therefore must be brilliant.
And our person who is ultimately the most immediate and direct challenge to him at any given moment is a dedicated black woman.
Yeah, who did the work.
Who is at any time ready and able to eat his lunch.
Because where he got to just walk in and fit the picture, she had to actually have the credentials to fit the job description. You know?
And so it's right and left hand of power. And it's really fascinating the way that they play with, again, not people fighting over a carcass, but people living with active power dynamics that are already in play.
While they're trapped on this island.
That changes so much of the movie. I'm really looking forward to rewatching it. I hope that now that it's on streaming today, that Rian Johnson goes and does one of his commentary tracks, because I would love to go and pop in a headset and listen to his commentary track while rewatching the movie. I'm absolutely, honestly, may put it on when I'm done recording.
I mean, honestly, shoot. I mean, we could, because it's out today.
Exactly. So I guess with all of that said, honestly, we sort of have, I think, talked this one pretty thoroughly.
Yeah.
With all of that said, what did you think of Knives Out, if you had to rate it at a 5 out of 10, or out of 5?
I think that I'll give
Glass Onion, excuse me.
I think that I'll give Glass Onion, I'm gonna give Glass Onion a 4.
That's fair.
I think that this movie is a lot of fun. I think that this movie still surprised me a lot. But I felt like this movie was sloppier.
Yeah.
And I just have to give it that knockoff for that. But I still had a blast watching this movie. And to your point, want to watch it again.
Yeah. I think that that's a totally fair score. I could keep talking about the movie, but I also sort of feel like if I continue going, I'm going to start venturing into spoiler territory.
No, yeah, I've been trying really hard.
Exactly. And so, that's also why I'm sort of, I guess, curtailing it a little short. I don't want to give too much away.
Yes.
The joy is the mystery. We didn't watch any trailers before watching this movie.
No, we just knew that it was associated with Glass Onion.
And it's Rian Johnson, who doesn't have any misses. Hey, Last Jedi haters. I just said Rian Johnson has no misses. So,
you didn't like the plot because you're boring.
That's right. And so with all that being said, we went into this looking forward to it. We saw it in theaters. Oh, I would like to talk about this after we give it a score.
Okay.
We went and we saw it in theaters, and I left thrilled.
Yeah.
I left absolutely elated with the experience that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so glad that I saw it on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
Because Knives Out is one of the movies that I sadly did not get to see on the big screen for various reasons. At the time I was just busy. And so getting to see Glass Onion on the big screen was truly a delight. I loved the movie. I'm going to give it a 4.5. It is messier, but I think that ultimately, for me, a lot of the fun and the prestige of it still carried it through, still held its water. And so even though it's a little bit off, it's only off for me, I think, by just that little bit. And I had a great time with it. I still think Knives Out is the ultimately far superior movie, but Glass Onion is a spectacular time. Glass Onion is one of the best times that you can have at a movie this year.
And I give it a 4 because of the fact that I know that Rian Johnson can do spectacular work.
Yes. I think that you would really enjoy Brothers Bloom.
Okay.
Which is one of his, I think, more slept-on movies. I love his filmography across the board. Going back to the theatrical thing. So, Netflix released it for a week in theaters, and it did gangbusters. I think we talked about this back in our Thanksgiving time frame or early December. It did gangbusters. It did fantastic numbers, to the point that the theater chains looked at Netflix and said, please let us extend the engagement, and Netflix said, no.
Remember when you could rent actual discs from Netflix?
You still technically can.
Nobody uses that anymore.
No.
But this could have been, they could have come full circle and become a movie theater. And instead they were like, no. But then people will definitely not buy into our scheme.
And so I think that it was a huge mistake to not extend the engagement, not just because it was going to allow the movie to make money, which would have made the money men happy, but I think it would have allowed, them to see, as a studio, how popular truly an original title with a mid-budget in a theater release with good marketing could be.
Yeah, but the thing
how
is
it
people
used to be.
Do not want to put money or time into mid-budget things anymore. Because they're mid-budget. Because you either go big or you go home.
Well, I guess we can't technically call it mid-budget. Daniel did cost $50.
Well, I mean, I guess we take that out of consideration. This movie is an easy enough film. We do not have that many set changes. We are in a pretty one locale for a really long time, and then the other parts are parts of apartments, and small set stuff.
I mean, if the cast weren't A-listers,
this would yes.
To your point. And so I think that it's a real shame it didn't get a longer release. I think it's silly to consider theatrical engagements promotional opportunities. That's offensive and stupid.
Because also, every single time somebody wants to watch that movie, they now have to buy a ticket. And instead, you're like, oh, well, we're already getting them to pay a monthly fee. So now they can literally watch this film. And
drop out. Whereas you might get people, coming in routinely.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, because also, it's a movie theater. There are only like maybe 15, 20 movies at a time in a theater that you can choose from. Netflix, you have thousands of options at this point, and you're dropping hundreds a day. So do you really think that you're actually making your bang for your buck on this deal, even when I'm spending X amount per month? Because a movie ticket is the cost of Netflix a month each time I go.
I've got a great but very expensive idea for Netflix.
Expensive on their half?
Expensive on their half.
They're not going to do it then.
A Knives Out mystery story, Bandersnatch style.
Oh, that would be very expensive.
A branching narrative where you get to play as Benoit and other people making decisions, throughout.
But then it's also at the end, you always technically get your guy. It's like a one of those murder mystery shows where like anybody can be the killer, and therefore
it's almost like the original Clue movie, where there were like 3 different endings.
Exactly. No. They're never gonna do this because.
But it's a great idea.
Yeah, but they don't have any great ideas, and that's why they're not gonna do it.
But no, I really enjoy this movie. I'm so sad if you didn't get to see it in theaters, but I urge you to go and watch it at home on Netflix. It's a great movie. Definitely go and watch it.
Yes.
It is truly one of the best things that you can watch this year if you haven't
It's such
seen
a great.
it already.
I mean, honestly, just watch it purely for how much fun Kate Hudson is having.
Watch it for how much fun Daniel Craig is having.
No, honestly, the entire cast is having a great time. I mean, look at Ed Norton. He hasn't been funnier.
Janelle Monáe?
Literally, John Bautista.
Dave Bautista.
Dave Bautista. Oh my gosh. I'm tired.
And so, I guess with all that said, we should go ahead and get into our other movie, which is extra exciting because it comes out next week.
Woo!
So, our next film is Noah Baumbach's White Noise. It stars Adam Driver, Greta Gerwig, Don Cheadle, and Andre Benjamin.
Andre the Giant Benjamin.
A.K.A. Andre 3000.
That's right.
And the premise is, at once hilarious and horrifying, lyrical, absurd, ordinary and apocalyptic, White Noise dramatizes a contemporary American family's attempts to deal with the mundane conflicts of everyday life while grappling with the universal mysteries of love, death, and the possibility of happiness in an uncertain world. It was written and directed by, of course, Noah Baumbach. It's based on a book by Don DeLillo. And I guess I'll go ahead and kick this bad boy off. We saw a trailer for this, and I didn't really know what to expect. Walking away from the movie, I found myself with a at once very immediately answering, sort of movie, but also at times a very absolutely novel-like experience. In terms of the film does read like a book at times.
Yeah.
With, metaphor that, sometimes is at times immediately gratifying, but some that you have to really chew on. And I think that it is not certainly a film for everyone in any kind of crowd-pleasing way. But I did find it to be, for me, fascinating, and incredibly personal, and very grounded. And I think that Noah Baumbach definitely struck gold casting Greta Gerwig and especially Adam Driver in their respective lead parts. And it's a movie that I have definitely been thinking about since I saw it. What do you think?
That's fair. Gosh, who is Greta Gerwig?
Babette?
Yeah.
She's been around for a while. She has acted in things. She has directed as well. I really don't know where you would immediately know Greta Gerwig from. Oh, she's the friend in House of the Devil. The one that gets murdered. The friend that drops her off at the house and is supposed to pick her up, that ends up getting shot.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, when did that come out? Oh, that's a Ty West film.
Mm-hmm. That's 2009. And she's been just sort of appearing in things since then. No Strings Attached, the Ashton Kutcher, Natalie Portman rom-com that it came out the same year as Friends with Benefits with Mila Kunis and Justin Timberlake.
Because they're the same movie?
She was in To Rome with Love, which I think is a Woody Allen film. She was in at least an episode of Portlandia. She's just sort of been around for a while.
Well, she needs to come out of hiding, and not just being around, but being actively focused upon. I thought that this movie was intoxicating. This movie, you said that it reminded you of like a novel, like a book, and I looked at this film and said that this is a play.
I think that's fair. People monologue.
Yeah, people monologue, but there's also this kind of choreography, this otherworldly motion that happens, you know, because people don't obviously do this, you know, people don't walk in choreography on a regular basis, and I think that's the thing that really brought me into it being like a play. And these very staged movements, these very focused on
these very staged line readings, these very quick deliveries to hit a cadence.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting film. I need to rewatch this movie. I know that I do, because the first time was it was the first time watching it. It hit me with all of the emotional impact that it was supposed to at the times that it was supposed to. But, you know, emotions can be distracting from like what people are actually saying, you know, because I'm too focused on how I'm feeling. But I think that this movie does something that movies do not do. People don't focus on the emotions that this movie, like, that this movie's really through line is, which is how do you cope with death? You know, what is it?
How do you cope with death? How do you cope to a degree with being alive?
Because I think at the end of the day, the coping with being alive is still connected to this idea that one day you're not going to.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, how do I comprehend what this means? And we get these like vignettes of different versions of what, you know, this fear of death, this, what is death? With the children focusing on the car crash footage.
Children focused on car crash. He's focused on Hitler, this man who committed genocide, murder, to become immortal. Don Cheadle is focused on Elvis, another figure who cheated death
by dying young.
Exactly. You know, and is now immortal.
Exactly. No, and I loved the fact that it was set in this like 80s world. It reminded me of almost like the same colorful 80s crayon that Stranger Things uses, as their 80s filter.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. For me, when I was really watching this movie, one of the big influences I felt was Spielberg, especially early Spielberg, Jaws, Close Encounters, where you have like these scenes of people just chitter-chattering over each other. Mm-hmm. And people are having the same conversation but different conversations, especially Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Mm-hmm. You've got the dad talking about, oh, we should go and we should watch this movie. You guys seen Pinocchio? Hey, dear, if the kids seen Pinocchio, they don't want to watch Pinocchio. I want to go and see that, and it's, it's all of this.
It's that opening scene of Home Alone, where it's all of the family all together.
Yes.
It's this organized chaos that's happening, because also this movie
does polka scenes.
Yeah. But this movie does a great job of having a rhythm to them. All of those scenes with this blended family that we're watching. It has a rhythm to it. It's something that people who grew up in quiet households are not aware of. Is this, you can have 5 different conversations going on at the same time that are the same conversation happening that everybody else, is understanding but also ignoring it.
You're either a part of it or not.
It's fascinating, and
it's like Sondheim lyrics.
It is this acceptance of chaos, and
the cow is white as milk, the hair,
Yeah, exactly. And I loved the way that this movie almost fell into this magical realism of almost like a Napoleon Dynamite world, where this isn't a real place. But these are real people, and these are real emotions. But then there are moments where we get really dramatic, and it feels like Shakespeare, and it's great, and I love it. It's almost like Mike Flanagan, where he gets really hard into the monologues and in his horror stuff. Where this was like really digesting this topic of what is death and what do we feel about it.
Noah Baumbach, for I guess a little bit of perspective as well as we head into further this conversation, if you aren't overly familiar with his work, he's done one movie for Netflix that I very much enjoy, The Meyerowitz Stories, which I think you would very much like. Mm-hmm. But he is also the co-writer on The Life Aquatic.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
And Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Okay. Which is super funny, because before you said that, I was like, he reminds me a lot of Wes Anderson. That's fantastic, because I was going to say, after this thought, I'm going to put a pin in my thought, and I'm going to say it, and it was going to talk about the fact that it almost feels like, because it was going to be the... oh gosh, it's the one about the family.
The Royal Tenenbaums.
The Royal Tenenbaums. Yes, it's this mirror into this colorful world. I really enjoyed this movie a lot, honestly. I loved how weird it was. I loved the weird format of it. I loved the fact that it wasn't just told to me in a very specific way of, this is flat out reality. I appreciated Don Cheadle having a role that was so much fun. Mm-hmm. Everybody is having so much fun, and I'm ecstatic about the fact that I get to see Adam Driver
chewing it up, not in a bad way, but he's got a role that he can sink his teeth into.
And I guess that's why I'm like, this thing just reminds me.
Where he's not a heartthrob. He's not a romantic flame. He's not a Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights.
No, not here, not now. This definitely isn't the one that's about medieval rape.
Yes, The Last Duel.
The Last Duel. No, this isn't that, and it's fantastic.
This smoldering romantic lead. He's a dad with a receding hairline who's a professor.
And I loved the fact that we went on all these random storylines that almost end up nowhere, but complete this picture of this family and what they're going through while the world is going to chaos. They still have the things that they want to figure out.
Well, and, ultimately, if you look at every Noah Baumbach's story, at the crux of them are family dynamics. You know, you look at The Life Aquatic. Steve and his wife are on the outs. He constantly commits acts of infidelity. He meets his son. His friend and maybe kind of almost true love of his life dies right at the same time that he meets this person that is maybe his son. But he also has this other adoptive son figure in this strange German man. You know, Cate Blanchett is here at this moment of birth where the father doesn't want to be involved. And again, you've got this guy stepping up to be the father of this kid that isn't even his, who ultimately ends up then dying tragically. You know, it's all of these conglomerating moments of an echo of the similar theme. And I think that you see that again kind of here, where all of these people are grappling with, what's my role? Mm-hmm. What's my part in a family, in the world, in a world that is heading towards ultimately, for everyone, the end?
Yeah. Yeah.
And is it childish to think about the fact that my life is going to end?
You know.
Or should I just accept it and stop being so self-pitying about the fact that my life is going to end? And also look at the fact that I am alive right now, and there are people around me with me. And how am I supposed to deal with any and all of this fact? And how am I supposed to deal with feelings of guilt over the fact that I'm afraid about dying?
And honestly, I loved the family so much in this film.
Great dynamics.
There was not a character within this family that I felt like didn't belong there, that wasn't standing their own ground in this weird, world that we've built. I thought that they did a phenomenal job. This is probably one of the moments that I'm applauding child acting. I think that all of these kids did a great job. You know, obviously not all of them are children, but I think that they, the younger daughter, I think that she did a smashing job. You know, she 10 out of 10. Because this is weird. This is a weird thing to do, and not just playing normal is hard. And I think that, because of the fact that I loved the fact that all of their lines almost bled into the next person's thought. I want this on paper. I want a copy of this.
We can read the book. And I'll tell you why I think you almost read it as a COVID story, because it's based on a book that was written before COVID. Mm-hmm. It's because COVID is ultimately for the last few years, absolute address of our own existential crisis.
That everything leads...
Death could come tomorrow.
For anybody. For my loved ones.
And it's this thing hanging over us like a cloud.
That you can't do anything about.
Because if it passes over me, it passes over me, and I get it. Mm-hmm.
Or I get it, but then I'm living with this thing for I'll just die a few years before I was supposed to. But what does that even mean in the theoretical sense of what my life was going to be anyway?
It shortened my life by 15 years. What an abstract idea for me right now.
Yeah, because that means that great, if I lived to be 100, then I would die at 85. That's still, but if I was supposed to live to 85,
that means that I'm going to die at 60. Shit, that's 10 years from now. And so I think that I think that when we first started watching it, you talked about, we took a little pause break, and you talked about how for you it was kind of reading a little bit like a COVID thing. And I think that it's because COVID is essentially an ultimate existential challenge to our concept of longevity and how long we're supposed to be here.
And I think that this kind of leans into, let's bring it all the way around. I think that this leans a lot into also the themes that we were getting in Guillermo's Pinocchio, with the fact that death is such a prominent theme that also that means that there has to be, acceptance
and purpose.
What is, this idea that we don't focus on. Nobody likes to talk about death, unless we get to see it in some big flashy thing.
Well, and I guess that also goes back to some of the discussions also, that were at play, honestly, with a lot of movies that we talked about throughout the entire month.
Mm-hmm.
The fragility of life, the fragility of the bonds between us. What is it to be human? What is it to be alive? What is it to experience life? Where does one find place?
No, yeah, honestly, I think that COVID has really put an entire new perspective on art, that is changed from here on until because now, because of the fact that we have all lost so much during this time, whether it be loved ones, whether it be, the trips never taken, memories never gotten, And
I think that we're also so hyper aware of how, fragile our own sensibility is. The
Yeah.
coldest winter in a century, a once-in-a-lifetime storm. But also, we've lived through multiple once-in-a-century hurricanes, and
it's
knowing that we're in this place of vulnerability and flux.
It's really interesting to see the theme build around itself, and it also come as not a shock to the system. I'm looking at these films and finding almost
reaffirmation.
Yeah, the things that I have been feeling, but also new closure as well for things that I haven't dug down and accepted of my own, mortality. I think that this is a new chapter in film, when we get into, the serious films. Now we're always gonna have the Fast 12s of the world.
Gal Gadot coming in Fast 10.
They're gonna bring her back. They're gonna write her in. They're gonna do another They Were Alive the Whole Timer.
That's right. So if you had to rate White Noise out of 5, what would you give it?
I think I'm gonna give White Noise a 4.5. I think that this movie... I think that I need another watch of this movie, honestly. I think that this movie was too smart for me. But that's also why I want to see it written down, is because there's a lot of times when there's a lot of people talking at once, and I do want to see what everybody is saying, But no, I think I'm gonna stick with a 4.5. At the end of the day, I felt like the presentation, based on just the way that it was presented to me, was a lot of information at once, that I think could have given a little bit more breath in between the beats, just to allow for those moments to land, because I felt like this movie was just constantly moving at and then this is now
it's
added.
2:16 and it is a dense 2:16.
Yeah. And I love Mike Flanagan. He is a dense writer right there. But I always end up going, oh man, it ended too soon. Where this thing, I was like, we have been talking for 5 whole minutes, and I'm still not sure what this scene is supposed to be about.
And I haven't digested a drop yet.
Once
it's over, I will know what it was supposed to be about.
Because you're going to give me a time to digest it, right? Right? But then we go on to a different topic, and I think that for me, it just could have used a little bit more neatening, but
I think that's also the messiness of adaptation as well. You're taking a movie or a novel, and bringing it down. No,
you're totally right, honestly. I think that I would very much love to read the source material for this. This was very interesting, and I think that I think that Adam Driver deserves whatever nominations he got for this.
So far, none.
I think that he deserves a nomination for this.
No, I think that this is one of my favorite Adam Driver roles. I'm going to go, and I'll give it a 4.5 as well. I was thinking a 4. Mm-hmm. I'll come around to a 4.5.
I love that we leaned in different directions.
I think it's really, really interesting, and it's a movie that I actively do want to sit with and think about and introspect. And again, I'm not sure that it's for everyone, but I really enjoy a good story that is about family, frailty, and I think that ultimately this does a great job of playing into Noah Baumbach's strengths as a storyteller, of telling really earnest human stories. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you can kind of take the things that are sort of odd about this and chuck them. And you're left with just this painfully gripping, painfully real human story.
Yeah, you're totally right. This movie reminds me almost like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Mm-hmm. It's this big, bright, colorful, expressive way of telling me about a hard topic. Yeah. About people struggling, about, something that is not that great, but allowing it to be given in a way that is unlike anything else that you can't look away from,
I mean, it literally essentially explains how someone falls into a Trump. Like, without ever making a Trump figure in the movie, it very succinctly throws out, and this is how literally even the best person that you know can just fall for something.
Yeah. Also, I loved the fact that they had all these, bringing in people to listen to these speeches, the fact that it was focused on these college professors, for a good portion of it was so fascinating. Because also it was in this time period of the 80s, where people were less connected than they are now, and so things like this, the prestige of these college professors actually meant something to this universe.
But also at a time, sometimes because Adam Driver religiously wears, I said religiously, because he religiously wears his robe. Mm-hmm. He also at times looks pseudo-biblical. Yeah. He almost looks like a preacher or pastor.
But I think that's also, the things that they're leaning into with this, the act of persuasion through, the authority of a figure, whether it be your professor or a pastor, the persuasion that words.
Or the person that says that they have an answer for your greatest fear.
And they may not know anything, because I loved that scene where he and Don Cheadle are playing off of each other in this weird game of tennis, but it's also a tango of them immortalizing their figure of choice through the similarities of them. And the fact that somehow we managed to walk out of that scene and say maybe Hitler and Elvis are actually like similar dudes, and that's something that the average film could not have done.
Yeah. Definitely do go and check out White Noise next week. It comes out on Netflix just in time for the new year. So you've got your New Year's plans, folks. But please definitely watch White Noise. It's exciting for us to bring you something, that is, again, not out for mass consumption yet. So please go and check that out.
Such a good watch, honestly. I could talk about this movie for quite some time, but I don't want to spoil anything else.
No, I could have talked about both of them for much longer, but here we are. And with all that said, Happy holidays, film buds.
Yes.
Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you one more time before the year is out.
Because this is a long-ass month.
And so definitely come back next week. Check out last week's episode. If you have the time off, enjoy it. If you don't, try and enjoy the time that you do get to yourself when you have some. Thank you guys, as always, for listening. Dear, do you have anything that you would like to say to the listeners?
We've got some crazy weather coming, guys. Like, across this half of the United States, literally split down the middle. Stay safe. Stay warm. This time of year is about giving. Doesn't have to be a big thing. Give something that you love to someone you love.
Even if it's time.
Even if it's time. Because at the end of the day, time is fleeting. And memories and these moments should be treasured. So, even if it's just a phone call.
Yeah. Happy holidays, you folks. And if you don't care for the holidays,
they're almost done.
Have a happy evening.
That's right.
And a happy weekend.
I love that. That's good. That's good. I was over here being like, man, they're almost over. Just bear through it a little longer. New Year's, nothing happens after New Year's.
But we will catch you guys next week.
Yes, we will.
Bye.
Bye.